Hunger for God will fill hungry stomachs. Hi everyone, I had a prophetic dream. This is what I dreamt. I dreamt I was at home, but in the dream, the home was not like my home in waking life. It's like there was a church in the yard, and my home was just not far from the church building. Okay, it was just a few meters from the church building. Okay, so I saw someone whom I know, and I saw the man preaching, and I was surprised. Like I didn't know that God had actually called this person to preach. And in the dream, I saw that it's him and his wife. Both of them are actually called to preach, and I was in shock. They're actually called to teach. They're teachers, okay, to be specific. I was in shock to see this person, okay, in my dream, to see this couple. So I first saw the husband, then I saw the wife. That's when I knew, like, okay, so they are actually called into ministry. So I was like, okay, very interesting. What was happening in the dream was there would be people who would just keep coming and keep coming to attend the service. But what was weird was that, in a normal church service, you'll say it starts at this time and it ends at this time. It looks like there was a continual service that was going on, and there was like no specific time. Like the service would start, and I assumed there'd be a little break, and after that the people would come again. Some people wouldn't even move, and then there'll be like another service. Like I remember it was evening, okay? It was already late in the evening, it was dark, and I was hungry. And I walked into this church that I said is in my yard, and I saw this man that I didn't know that he was called to teach. I was still amazed to see him teach. And this man had been teaching during the day outside, okay, in the shade, okay. And then it was like some sort of a stage that had like a shade thing over him. That's where I first saw him teach. But now he had moved inside the hall, and the people were seated. And I saw him sitting down. I'm like, this man preached in the afternoon, and he carried on to teach people even right through late in the evening. Like people wouldn't go. There was like a few people still left, but the people wanted to hear the word. I remember I was thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's still here. I can't believe he's still teaching. And this man was now sitting at the front on a chair, teaching people who were actually, he was actually seated much closer to them as he was teaching them the word. So I decided, well, since it's late, let me quickly go fix something for myself and the children. On my way to the house, I was passing through some people. I'm like, oh my gosh. So these people too will have to eat, and I was already like tired. I was exhausted. So I remember thinking, let me just fix something quick. So as soon as I walked in, I remember I saw my younger sister. I said to her, look, this is what I planned. We're going to be eating for supper. But then as we began, actually as I began with the preparation, it was then that it hit me. Like, here I am, I'm preparing food for my household and the people who are here. And there were even some strangers that were actually like seated outside, some in the kitchen, people that I don't know. And even in the dream, I didn't know. I just know that these people that probably came into the church. Now they came, they're just taking a break, and they just came in to just sit in the kitchen. It was like sitting in twos, or sitting in ones, and a few in groups. So I decided, look, let me just go check the people in the church. Like, how am I going to deal with this? Like, in terms of food, I decided, let me just go there. I don't know. I think I was going there to probably go estimate how many people there are and to try and see if there was a plan we could make, you know. And I remember actually saying a prayer in my heart, like, Lord, I'm exhausted. I want to cook for my family. I understand I'll have to use a bigger pot, but I don't see how I'm going to be able to cook for all these people. Like, how can we eat and not feed the strangers in our home? Don't get me started with the pastors and the people in the church. So upon thinking about them, I decided, let me just quickly go to the church to check on them. So I went to the church, and they were still listening so intently. Like they were eating the word like one would eat food. Like these people wanted the Lord for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Like they moved me. Like I was so moved. And the humility of this man to keep on teaching these people. I remember thinking, what am I going to do? At the back of the church, there was like a kitchen. So I proceeded to go to the back. I opened the door. It was then that I was met up with this woman who had bought food. That's when I realized that, okay, occasionally there would be people who would be bringing different foods for people because there's just too many people to feed. So I looked at the food that she got and I thought this food is not enough for this group of people. So the most natural thing was to put portion size for the teacher, you know, and so, or for the pastor, okay. So for the man who was teaching, so I just took the portion size for him and I left the others in this container, and I took a little with me to go, so that which will help to feed other people who were seated outside of my house. So I put the portion size next to the pasta and this other bowl of food that I felt was not going to be enough for everyone. I also just put it close to him. I actually didn't say anything. By the time when I was taking the food by the pasta, people were actually reaching out, wanting to grab the food. There was like scones inside the dish and sandwiches, and I tried to hold it up so that they do not help themselves. So I took it and I put it by the pastor's feet. I don't know why I did that. I just left them close to him and I didn't say a word. Like he was still busy teaching. I did not want to interrupt any more of his sermon. I went into the house. I went back into the house. As soon as I walked into the house, I realized that my younger sister actually cooked the food. She did not only cook the food, she had actually dished the food. What was weird was everything was in double portion. I realized that, but like I was surprised, like, okay, even the size of the fish, the even the size of the fish, I'm like, even what I bought at the store, this is not even the normal size of the fish that it came in. Like how it's like as if the food, not as if like the food got increased in the pot, and I feel like the food got increased as she dished, actually, to tell you the truth. Because the portion sizes were like a lot, and I realized that everybody else that was actually eating, I looked at the food, it was double the amount of food that I eat. And I remember looking, it was the size of the fish. Like I didn't buy fish this size. Like, it baffled me. But I was starving, so I was happy to see food. I couldn't wait to dig in. So the scones that I brought were just extras because everybody had had enough. Looking at the size of my food and at other people's plates, like it was more than enough. I didn't say like if the food is too much. I just thought to myself, let me just eat what I can eat and I'll leave the rest. And then I see myself walking towards the food, and then the scene switches. I didn't see myself eat or sit down, but I was looking at the food. I was going to the food. So the scene switches. Now I'm full. I'm going to the church, to go and see how did the food situation work out. And to tell you the truth, there was a bit of anxiety that I had because the food was not enough. Immediately, I walked into the church. Like the people they were seated more in an upright position, in a more relaxed way. I don't know any other way to say except to say they looked radiant, like they were full. I'm like, what did the Lord do? Like I realized that everything was empty, everyone had eaten, and I could see everyone was like satisfied. I don't know how else to say it, but I could see it in their face, and I knew in my spirit that the people had had enough to eat. Like they didn't need any more. They were really like satisfied. And these people had like scones and sandwiches, but they looked like they had like a meal, like me, who was coming from the house. I remember thinking, what is going on with the food today? Like the Lord is doing something here. So that's how the dream ended, with me just looking at them. Or actually did go to get the plate, and I remember making my way to the end of the church, facing the direction of the kitchen. So, yeah, a hunger for God is coming. That's the end of the dream, by the way. There's a hunger for God that is coming. The people are going to have this thirst for God, and the people who are sitting with the calling of God, people whom God has been calling and they've been refusing to accept the call, when they do get up, they're going to take the baton and run with it. Like they're going to come with this energy as if to say, Lord, we wasted so much time. saying yes to your will, saying yes to the calling. But now that we are here, we are going to work in extra hours as if to pay off the days, the months, and the years in which our gifts should have been used. Like this man's humility, like I was so moved. I was so moved. You know, I remember looking at him like the love that he has for these people, the love that he has for the Lord, that he would actually humble himself. Like that is like wow. Like I was moved. So if I was that moved, imagine how the Lord was feeling. So a time is gonna come when the hunger for God will increase and the people will just want to stay in church. And these aren't people who are coming there with toiletry bags like prepared to sleep. No, they just happen to be there and they just want the word. They just wanted the word, and they left the responsibility on the people who were working for the Lord to now have a that duty to feed them. But the Lord made sure that the people were fed. The Lord made sure that the people were fed. So whatever ministry that God has called you to, always remember that when it comes to feeding the people, always remember to pray for the food. Always remember to pray for the food. With me, according to my beliefs, we all believe differently. I always believe, like, it doesn't matter what I got myself into, okay? I'd always pray over the food before we dished. I always pray over the food and I ask the Lord to increase the food, that the food be enough, because I don't like turning people away, and um I don't like to dish for adults like I'm dishing for children. So I'd always pray for the food before dishing, and I always believe that God would increase, and God did that. God would always do that. So for me to see this at work in the dream, you guys, let us be encouraged. God is good. Let us be encouraged. So yeah, that's the dream that I had. Yeah. Thank you guys. God bless.